today's video we're making shop drawers. Before going on to the next part of the video, I wanted to go over what the finished product is going to be so you get an idea of what we're going to be making. I have my two sides, my front and my back, and then I have my bottom panel. So I put these together using pocket hole screws. It's real easy. And the main feature of these drawers is that I have, the way I put it together is that we have this bottom panel that I make a groove for on the sides and in the front to accept the bottom panel. So you literally just slide it in and it tightens up the cabinet, and it gives you this nice reveal all the way around along your sides and your front and your back. The reason that this one looks so funny is because I ran out of material and I wasn't gonna go buy some more, so I just used some scraps, put it together. I ran a bead of glue, I put this little piece here, and it works. It looks nice. They're just shop cabinets, so I'm not worried about it. But in the future, if you do have this problem and you're doing it for like a nice set of kitchen cabinets, I would definitely, get some more material. But I mean, for my use, this is perfect. So like I said, I use pocket holes, and all my cuts are made on the table saw and the miter saw, so you can make this pretty much anywhere. So let's go ahead and get started with the build, and I'll show you how I did it. All right, so we're back here now at the miter saw station, and I've left this side unfinished on purpose so I can show you from scratch how I make this, how I make my drawers. The first thing that I need to do is account for the spacing between the face frame and the side of the cabinet. So I always try to give a 1/2 inch spacing so that I can use this cheap MDF from the big box stores to work as a spacer. So the idea is that I can put the spacer in here, and I can use this now to attach my drawer slides. So all I do is run a little bead of glue down here, and I use a few brad nails and attach that into place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then from there I'm going to show you how I actually measure out for the actual drawer that I'm going to put in here. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, so this is now probably the most important part of the build, and this is where I show you how to take any opening and get the sizing that you need for the dimensions for your drawers. So I purposefully left this one for last. I wanted to show you exactly how I'm doing this. I don't even know what the dimensions are, but I'm just going to show you. So let's say you're doing a drawer in an old cabinet somewhere, or you wanted to add a drawer somewhere. I'm going to show you exactly how you would come, how you would get the dimensions. So the first thing you need to do is get the height of your drawers. You need to figure out how tall they're going to be. So in my case, in this opening, they're 5 inches. So we're going to go with 4-inch tall drawer sides. So I like to do the height minus 1 inch. As far as the width, in this case, it's right at 15 inches. So I like to do, I left this here this way so I could show you exactly what's going on. So this slide and this slide together, they equal 1 inch. So most drawer slides will equal 1 inch. Just make sure you check the manufacturer settings to make sure that that's the case. So we're going to do 15 inches minus 1 inch, and then now it depends on the thickness of the material that you're using. So in my case, I'm using 5/8 inch plywood. I usually use 3/4 inch, but in this case I'm using these because I had a ton of leftover 5/8 inch, and I just want to use all the scrap that I have, so I'm using these. But most likely you're going to use either 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch plywood or hardwood. So if you're going to use 3/4 inch, you need to do 15 minus 1 minus 1.5 inches, because that represents your two sides. And so you're going to have 12.5. In my case, it's going to be a little bit less than that. So I'm going to do 15 minus 1 inch minus 1.25 inches because I'm using 5/8 inch thick material. So my measurement is going to be 12 3/4. So now I know the total overall thickness that my drawer box needs to be, because, sorry, the drawer front. So I have basically a 5/8 inch here, 5/8 inch here thick, and then the middle piece is the one that I'm measuring for, which is going to be that 12 3/4. So once I have those that measurement, I know that these are 18 inch drawer slides, so I'm making them 18 inch deep by 4 inches tall. And then for the fronts and the backs, I'm just going to make them 4 inches tall by 12 3/4. So now I have my dimensions. I can go to the table saw and start making these cuts. Okay, so I have my 4 sides here, or 4 pieces, sorry, that are going to make the drawer. I'm going to have 2 sides, a front and a back. But what I need to do is I need to make a groove here that's going to fit a panel that's going to be kind of like the bottom of the drawer. And I like doing it this way. I like making the groove because it's replaceable, and it makes for really sturdy and square drawers. So I already started this line here, and this shows basically where I'm going to start the groove. And I set the height of the blade to 1/4 inch, and then I set the fence at 1/2 inch, and then I'm gonna make consecutive passes until I get about 1/4 inch groove, you know, basically all the way down. And once I have that on all 4 of my sides, then I know that you know, my bottom piece is gonna fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting these grooves, and then we're gonna go from there. Alright, so I'm about to make the first pass. I have my fence set at 1/2 inch away from the blade. And what I need to do is, you know, start with the first one and keep going through all the other pieces until I go to the last one, and then I go back and I nudge the fence over, and I just keep doing that until the groove is big enough for this 1/4 inch MDF that I use. Just make sure that you use some sort of push block or something, because even though it's not cutting all the way through, it's just safer if you have something to kind of help you push it through. So let's get started. It should only take 1 or 2 nudges over to get the final thickness that you need for your groove. And all you do is to make sure you just kind of push it in here. And you want it to be able to move, but not, you know, not like wobble, just kind of hold itself up like that. So once you have that fit, you're gonna have a nice reveal at the bottom, and it's gonna be, you know, pretty sturdy. So I'm just gonna you know, repeat this on the rest of the pieces, and then I'm ready to take them over to the table saw and get my final dimensions. We have our sides cut now, and now we're gonna cut our front and backs. So one thing to keep in mind is that no matter what plywood you use, it's not always gonna be the exact thickness that you think it is. So even though I'm using 5/8 inch thick plywood, it's not exactly 5/8 inch thick. So what I can do is I can take 2 offcuts and put them against my fence. So I already set it at 14, which represents the opening minus an inch. I have it at 14, and I can take my front and place it against that. So I set my stop at 14, I put 2 offcuts, and then I set my front and my backs against this. So now this is getting the exact perfect distance that I need to make my fronts and backs. Because if I take these offcuts and measure them, you actually see that they're not exactly 1 1/4 inches. They're actually about 1/16 less. So by doing it this way, you set the exact distance that you need, and it makes sure that you're not counting so much on the math. Because if you were to cut this exactly at 12 3/4 inch, your actual box would be a little bit too big, and it would be kind of tight when you close your drawer. So what this does is just make sure that you get the exact spacing that you need. So I'm gonna leave this here, I'm gonna make my cuts, and then we're pretty much ready to assemble. All right, so we're now ready to put together our drawer. And one thing I wanted to just show you is that we have our two sides, we have our front, and this is the back. And all I did for the back is I just raised after I did the last pass on the groove, I just raised the blade all the way up and cut all the way through so that this can sit at the bottom of the groove and we can put our center panel or our middle panel in the middle. So you don't have to worry so much about this being super square, because once I slide this center panel in, it squares everything all up. So just put a few pocket screws in the front and then also in the back, like this actually. And then I can show you how I cut out the middle panel. All right, so now we can start measuring out for the bottom panel. So all we need to do is get our tape as far as for the length. So we have 17 3/8, and we just added a 1/4 inch to that. So we're gonna look at roughly 17 5/8 for the length. And then for the width, so right here we have about 12 3/4, and we add a 1/2 inch to represent the two grooves. So we're at right at 13 1/8. So it's going to be about 13 1/8 by 17 5/8. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that now, and then we're going to slide it in, and we should be done with this drawer. Okay, so I ran into a bit of a problem here, and I ran out of this 1/4 inch MDF, but I'm going to, the goal of this project was to use nothing but scraps. So what I did was I just used what I had, and then I just cut an extra piece from a smaller piece that I had, and I'm just gonna make it work. I'm just gonna add it in here, and what you can do here is add a thin piece from the bottom and just put some glue, and then put a few screws right here, and it'll be real sturdy. As you can see, it's real sturdy anyways, but in the future I can easily replace this and once I get scraps in, but since these are just shop drawers, I'm just gonna go with what I have. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It's real nice and sturdy. As you can see, the lines here are perfect. It hugs the bottom of the drawer, and you can't even see any of this. So I'm gonna attach the slides now onto the sides, and we're gonna go ahead and install it and be done with this. Here's a quick overview of what I'm going to be doing now in the next step, now that our drawer is complete. I'm going to be attaching the slides, and what I like to do is first I'll take an offcut and I'll clamp it to the front of the cabinet, like that. And this just gives us a reference point to where our front is going to be. And then I'll take two 1/4 inch spacers, and I'll put it against the drawer side. I'll take my slide, butt it up against the front, and then I'll take this center punch machine type tool thing and hold it against the sides and punch it in, and that's going to give us like a little pilot hole to start our screw in. So once we're at that point, we can do both sides, and then this thing is done. We can finally put it into our cabinet and be done with it. So let's do a quick video on how to do that, and then we'll go from there. Up this video, we did the drawers. The next video is actually going to be an overview over basically the whole station, why I did certain things and some things maybe that I would have done differently. I'm also going to talk about the Delta Cruiser and just kind of tie it all together and show you guys the finished product. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It really helps me out. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, check me out. I put a lot more content on there, and that's where I do most of my detailed stuff. I just wanted to say thank you to Delta and AccuRide for providing me with some of the stuff to be able to make this video happen. So thank you guys so much. Until the next time.